Yeah, Batman could beat Vader.
Here we go. Welcome everyone to this BTB short, the state of Star Wars, where four self-professed Star Wars nerds talk about Star Wars. My name is Matt Smith. I'm joined by Brian Larson,
Nanu Nanu.
Aaron Lashbrook,
Hello there.
and the T in BTB, Tim Larson.
May the force be with you.
We are
No,
part
let me
of.
try another one. I want to do it again. That wasn't a
Okay.
good.
All right. And the
Let me.
T in BTB, Tim Larson.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Very unoriginal. All right. Anyway, we are part of the
That hurts my
SPDM.
feelings.
We're part of the SPDM podcast network. You can check out our main cast, the BTB Movie Club, along with a ton of other great podcasts like The Comics Corner and 15 Years Later, wherever you get your podcasts downloaded to. Spoiler warning, we will be talking about Star Wars, both past, present, and future, and we'll be talking a lot about characters, plots, locations, etc. So please note that this is your warning. Spoilers ahead. How we doing, everybody?
How are you?
Great. This isn't even liquor. This is green tea.
You're not on spring break.
I know. I'm not even on spring break. Oh
This
man.
boy's some blue milk.
Anyway, all right. So we are here. This is episode 5 of State of Star Wars. We're going to talk about other mediums that we consume Star Wars in. So the thought was anything that's not movies and TV. So what other mediums, just a general, we'll do a quick whip around here. What's your probably go-to non-TV, non-movie medium? Tim, what's your kind of go-to?
Oh, so my presence here is as an observer almost only. Knowing that we were doing this, I just got into reading some of the Marvel comic books. I'm almost done with the first Vader series. Really enjoyed it. I've never read a Star Wars book, and most of the video games I haven't played. So I'm almost going to play the role of asking you guys questions because I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stuff that I know very little about.
All right. Brian, what about you?
I would have to go first. Video games, which it isn't that many video games. Played a lot of the board games, the Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly, Star Wars,
Mhm.
and then I would actually go comics last.
Oh, okay.
I never really, I've tried reading them in the past. Read some of, never got too far into them. It's a deep dive, but the ones that I have read or started reading recently, I have enjoyed. But that's pretty much where I'm at.
All right. Aaron, what's your go-to other medium other than TV and movies?
My go-to as an adult, now that I have adult money, is like full scale, full size collectibles.
Okay.
Nothing authentic to the movies. I've never had that kind of money. All replica based. For a long time, it was Don Post, Masters Replica with their lightsabers. Disney has taken over most of that in both categories, the lightsabers and the helmets. I do have some fan made armor. At one time, I had 2 sets of Stormtrooper armor. I'm down to 1. But if I was going as a child, it would definitely be the 3 3/4 inch figures. Had lots of figures, very few ships or other large scale accessories, mostly just action figures. But yeah, those would be my 2 big ones. Brian had mentioned I have 2 adult sons now. As they grew up, they found and loved Star Wars organically, all on their own.
Really?
Huh.
That's
They
amazing.
are, especially the oldest of the 2, as far as overall just Star Wars knowledge. He consumes everything, but we have the Trivial Pursuit, different versions of board games as they came out. Whatever game they were playing in the Han Solo movie, I can't think of the name of it right now, but we have that.
Pazak.
But yeah, Trivial. Pardon?
Pazak, is it the card game?
Yeah,
Pazak, I think, or
something. I thought it was a
something like
B, more of a B than a P, but
I don't know.
like it was almost like Baccarat, but it's
Yeah.
I don't know. But we do have 2 One made out of plastic, um, ornate chess pieces. Another one made out of glass. It's a little nicer, a lot less played with. Um, both Star Wars based. But yeah, a lot of the games and both the boys. We started off with PlayStation 1, Power of the Force. I played that with them as kids, but they moved on quickly to Obi-Wan, and then the the not the Last Jedi, but the God, I can't think of it, with Kyle Kestis, and
Oh,
it's huge.
yeah.
It was the big one. But now they even are into like the streaming games, the Battlefronts that have been re-released, with Star Wars. So those things. But for me, to answer your question, the longest way possible, adult full size collectibles. As a kid, 3 3/4 inch action figures.
Gotcha. And sabak was the word I was looking
Bach,
for.
there it is. That's
I
where
was
it's getting
wrong.
at.
Pazak is a game from a video game. Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. If you had to nail me down to one category, it'd probably be gaming. Mostly board gaming. I do play some video games. Knights of the Old Republic, um, was one of the greatest computer games of all time. I actually have it on my Switch right now, and I throw it on from time to time. The new Jedi games, I have one of them for the PS4. I didn't get very far because I'm old now, I found out. And my skills are lacking. I did read a bunch of novels. I actually didn't read that many comic books either. The Vader series that Tim you were talking about, I kind of picked that up. Um,
Mhm.
as it was coming out in 19, but that was about it. So yeah, I would say gaming. There's lots of miniature games, Imperial Assault, Star Wars Legion, Star Wars X-Wing. These are all games that I have played and owned parts of. And then Legion was probably the most recent. And then card games. There's deck building games, and there's a game called Star Wars Unlimited, which is like if you remember Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you guys were into any of that, but Pokemon, any of those, it's kind of like that. So it's kind
Okay.
of a card game. So that would probably be where I would put most of my other medium would be gaming.
Let me ask a
All right, so
question.
the
What's
games I was
I'm
fumbling
sorry.
around with that my oldest, played a ton of was I just gotta get them right. I mean, that's the point of this. Is the Force Unleashed? That was the one he played
Yeah,
that one for
yeah,
years. And then the most recent one, and I think I was running the two together, was Jedi Survivor,
yeah,
because the actors of both of those games come up from time to time in video clips.
yep.
The one is a pretty prolific Star Wars voice actor. I'd know him if I saw him. I don't know his name.
Sam Witwer.
There you go.
Weird.
And then from Jedi Survivor, that guy is in quite a few things right now. I think he was in Shameless. He's part of that crew, kind of the redheaded guy.
He ended up being the Joker in Gotham,
Yes,
also,
that's where I know him
where
from.
he was outstanding as that.
Yeah, totally agree. But yeah, those two games, besides the like the Battlefront and stuff like that that they play online, I don't think we've ever owned it, but it's just been through Steam or whatever they play
Yeah.
on.
I was just going to ask about everybody your experience with reading any of the novels, the books, because I knew they existed when I was a kid, but for whatever reason, as enthusiastic as I was and passionate about loving the three movies when I was a kid, the books came out and I just had no interest. Maybe I just don't like reading. I don't know, but knowing that they were different stories, I just never picked one up and went for it. So I'm curious to know your guys' experience with reading all of those books.
My first they're a little hit or miss, first of all. Just like any big business sort of um tie-ins. But my best experience has always been the Timothy Zahn novels, which are pretty famous, where they introduce um Admiral Thrawn, who is in the new Ahsoka show. They kind of retconned him a little bit, but and Timothy Zahn wrote new novels to kind of go with the new canon. But that's probably my first experience, and I thought those were great. But then I've also read some real clunkers. I mean, when there's no real rules, there was no worrying about canon back then. Right. There was nobody, I don't know. Brad was here last time and he gave me the dude's name who's in charge of the
Right.
continuity. I can't
Right.
even remember what that name was, but there's like a guy in charge of that. They didn't have that back then. So you could literally write any story you wanted. And it was like, oh yeah, Leia became a stormtrooper and shot Luke. Yep. It happened because we wrote it. Like there was no
Mhm.
rules. So those were
Dave
probably.
Filoni is the guy
What
here.
what's that?
Dave Filoni.
No, it was a
No,
different
no,
guy.
this is somebody different.
Like an actual like employee of Disney who tracks all the continuity across every medium.
Yeah,
That's like
I
his
like what
actual
you're doing
job.
there, Aaron. Though to try and convince us you're not really Brad, but we
Yeah, he's trying to throw us off.
Trying to
Yeah,
throw us
good
off,
point,
yeah.
Brian.
But yeah, and then the more recent novels, they're fine. There's a trilogy called the Aftermath trilogy, which kind of bridges the gap a little bit between Return of the Jedi and the newer stuff, and they were fine. They were good, but
yeah, Brad literally when he was telling this during the last week, I did the exact same thing. I'm just like, everyone knows Dave Filoni. I mean, ooh, yeah, way to
Well,
go,
I mean,
Brad.
that is his job.
And he threw out this other name, so maybe Brad was just with us and just threw out this different name.
just
I'm
threw
pretty
out a
sure it's
name.
Dave Filoni
They'll never be able to
because
check.
But yeah, no, it was because I exact same thing. Well,
Leland Chee. Leland
Leland,
Chee. He maintains the Holocron continuity database
how
to
much do you get paid
create
for that
to
job? That sounds pretty
create a.
important.
I bet he gets paid a lot. Because what if
Yeah.
something happens?
well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Dave Filoni's backstory is hanging around Skywalker Ranch. Like he was the one that would, and I know he has been promoted to, you know, I think he's like overall director of content or some
Right.
shit. So
So I think you're talking about two different things though. I think this Leland guy, he's the behind the scenes like a comic came out, a novel came out, a TV show. He's the one that they go to say, "Hey, can we do this, this, and this?" Where I think Filoni's more like out in front, head guy, like where I'm in charge of making sure things get made the right way. I think we are talking about two different job descriptions there.
I do not.
The Leland Chee guy is a little bit more into the weeds, into the details of everything, where Filoni's more of big picture.
Hmm.
Right, but it was. I mean, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna argue this, but
A
and
lot.
in,
He
in the last
says,
10
yes.
years or so, I can see where you're saying Dave Filoni's more the big picture guy, but he was the guy that they would go to and check and say,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming his job changed quite a bit, probably got a lot easier with the Disney purchase, with them getting rid of a ton of, what do you want to say? What do they call it now? Not canon, but you got another word for it. I should know it, but all the stuff that got cut out that exists in the world because it actually does exist in the physical world.
Mm,
But now it's legends. It's not canon.
okay.
And slowly over, the years, like with Thrawn, they have, because when Disney took over, Thrawn became legend, not canon, until he made it into a movie. Actually, no,
No, he was
he
in
got made
Rebels.
canon. He got
He
made
got thrown
canon
in
when
Rebels,
he made a
which was a
cartoon.
retcon because that original trilogy takes place after Return of the Jedi. So they totally retconned him back to throw him in there, which was probably not the best move, but it ended up working out for him.
I have forgotten this term retcon. Can you tell me what that is? I
It's
mean,
when
for the
they,
listeners,
it's when it's when they,
Retroactively continued,
yeah,
continuity.
they
continuity
they go
retroactive.
back
Okay,
and
got
make
it.
it make sense,
I got it.
even
I
though it
got it.
didn't make sense originally. Yeah,
That was for the listeners.
yeah, big
So
comic book
since
thing to do.
this comes up, maybe we know the answer and maybe we don't. And Matt, I'm sorry if I'm taking the interview away from you.
No, you're
Um,
go for it.
but the word canon has been something we've had some fun with in the BTB club, where most people, when we just talk the word canon, we think Star Wars,
Mhm.
and this goes all the way back to the Bible, right? And so
I think
when
Catholicism, but
right, like
you,
when do, yeah, It was beat
That's
into me as a
I, th
child.
I think that's a
Um,
capital C, by the way. I don't think that's
when when does Star Wars involve itself with the word canon? Is it because books got written and the discussion had to go that way, or did George Lucas have to start this conversation? Like, how did the word canon show up in the Star Wars universe?
with the $4 billion Disney purchase.
Is that when? Because I feel like I
Yeah.
heard it
I'm
before then.
I'm sure you did, and I'm sure it was a conversation, but I think it became important to them when they bought the product, right? Because
Okay.
They
now,
they wanted to be able to rewrite other characters'
right.
backstories, and they didn't want
Yeah.
to have to deal with Timothy Zahn and anybody who's ever gotten the green light to write a book.
Yeah, so it's like
Okay.
everything was out there, tendrils of every novel, every comic, every little thing. And they almost are like, well, that's too hard to keep track of. So let's pull it all back. Here's all the stuff that we say is true. Everything else is just dreams or
Mhm.
whatever, legends. And then now we're going to
Until we
create a,
make it official.
because now we can control the narrative, literally. We can control the narrative. We control who gets to be official and who doesn't. I'm sure that word came up before they bought it because I'm sure it's kind of a nerd word, right? It's kind of a fandom word. Um, just like anything else. What's canon about Batman,
Mhm.
right? Like what will they never change about Batman, Brian? His
Oh, here
parents
we go.
died, right?
Here we go.
Like
Well,
They never.
have they
they
ever messed
changed it.
with
Yeah, they just kicked off this absolute universe, which was their answer to Marvel's Ultimate Universe, where
hmm
they just kind of um, brought in new writers to do things. And Absolute Batman #6 actually came out last week, I believe. And so it's 6 months in, and one of the big things is only the dad died.
well,
Mom's still alive. So
I stand corrected.
yeah, but again, it's a new universe. They finished a whole storyline, and so I don't. Never mind. I don't want to take over
Darth
my.
Vader would kill
But
Batman. Let's bring it back to Star Wars.
Well, I was just trying to make an example. Like, there's canon in lots of things, and it's a nerd word, right? Fandoms come up with that word to say, well, that doesn't count because that's not canon, or it's an argumentative word that people use to
Right.
be like, oh, that's not canon, so it doesn't count. I think it comes up in video games, it comes up in
right. I
comics,
mean,
movies.
yeah, Batman could beat Vader. The Man of Steel movie where Superman snaps Zod's neck, and
Yeah,
people lost their mind about it.
right,
Mhm.
And Batman, they don't show him actually kill people, but there's no way the people survived that one fight that he was in where he was throwing boxes on them and snapping their necks. And
right,
so, and Batman doesn't kill. So there's always someone who's going to push the envelope and change something. And the way to get out of it is the two famous words of either retcon or it's not canon.
right. Yeah.
So Brian, since this has gone completely off the rails already,
Yeah,
might as well keep
Batman
going.
could beat Vader.
When when you hear the word canon, who do you think of? Is it? I think of Kevin Smith because in Dogma, when that came out,
Correct.
that's when I was introduced to it, and like I was in college. Canon wasn't a big deal. Like I wasn't, I guess, that deep in the weeds to or I don't want to say I wasn't that nerdy. I just wasn't that worldly. So I don't know. I know Brian and I have, and not excluding anybody else, but we've got some Kevin Smith past between us. So that's what I think of. When I think of
Right.
canon, I think of Dogma.
Uh, Cardinal Glick, I think, was his. Oh, what was the comedian? I can't think of his name though.
George Carlin.
George Carlin.
George Carlin. Yeah, George Carlin's name in the movie. And yes, I think you're right, Aaron. For me too, that would have been the first terms of canon, but I'm thinking of it as a Kevin Smith being a smartass. I mean, and I was the one who was talking about canon a few podcasts ago, and we got done. And you guys are like, you realize that's church stuff, right? And I was like, no, I really,
Yeah.
it's just ignorance on my part, but not a very religious person. But yeah, I guess that would probably be the best way. My first introduction to it was listening to them talk about the Catholicism Wow campaign in Dogma.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being, a comic book Star Wars guy, canon doesn't come up a lot in comics. They don't put it in canon, the term canon, but it has a lot to do with retcons and reboots and things like that, which is
Yeah.
along the same lines.
Well, and so to your point, Tim, about canon and what, I think canon used to be, it's like, let's talk about the Star Wars universe. Canon used to be the movies,
The movies, right? That's
right?
how I
Like they
remember
never
it.
worried about anything else
Mhm.
until, like Aaron said, we have this $1 billion deal now. So now they have to have a little hand in everything. So the Survivor, is that the game, Aaron?
Yes.
That's the, I think,
And there's
latest.
another one too,
Yeah.
Fallen, right?
Fallen Jedi was the first one of them
Okay.
using that character, and then they did Survivor.
So those games, the comics now that are coming out now, I don't think games so much, but any book that comes out now they have to have their little this what was his name? Lee something? I already
I
forgot.
think you made it up. I don't know.
But now it's I think you hear it more because there's more things to keep track of. Like it's not just we're worried about movies and TV. Now we're worried about everything because what we want to present is a united universe front kind of deal where everything, if a kid goes and reads a Darth Vader comic, we want to make sure when he goes to watch the movie that that stuff makes sense, right?
Mhm.
You didn't get to see Darth Vader's face in the comic, and it's perfectly fine because that's not what Darth Vader looks like in the, you know what I mean? So I think
Yep.
that's why you hear it more because there's more stuff that they have to keep track of at all times. It's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the comics, since you're bringing those up, the like in the name faceplate of it, the logo, there's a part where it'll say Legends now,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that hey, this might not be canon, but it's a good story. Read it and buy the book. Um, and then High Republic's another thing I see a lot, which
Yeah.
I think that is more towards the canon idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think they can get away with a little more because it's like we don't know what happened. It was 10,000 years ago. We can do whatever
Mhm.
we want, right? But yeah, I think that's kind of why we hear it more. And again, I think with as internet fandom has become, we talked about this last week, I think, as internet fandom has become rabid, stuff like that's going to happen more because you get more people with opinions throwing stuff around, and that's what happens when you get a bunch of people on the internet. You get chaos.
Well, that's kind of cool that Brian said that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I didn't. All right. Because I was just looking up the book. So there's like, and we've talked about this in the other podcast um, that I don't read. There's only been one book that I've ever read for leisure in my life, um, and it's a Star Wars book, and it's I always thought it was the Bounty Hunter Chronicles, but I just looked it up, and it's the Bounty Hunter Wars. Um, and when I looked it up, now it has a gold banner across the top that says Legends. So like I still have the copy I read, and I guarantee it doesn't say that at the top. So I'm gonna go get that appraised. Um, but no, it's just funny that it says that, and it's actually in a group of books like the people selling different collections and stuff. And Aftermath, I think that's where Thrawn comes from, um, is in that collection too. So, you know, but I can't tell from that book if it still says Legends across the top because he's now a character, and it might just be that they pulled his character in and not necessarily the whole story. So, um, but yeah, I've read one Star Wars book and that was it.
Yeah, so I went and got Brian gave me some suggestions and I went and got Jedi Knights here. First episode issue, sorry, wrong word. I also got Rise of Skywalker and I was amazed at the fact that Rise of Skywalker is literally the movie. Um, it's interesting to me that they have comics that are just the movie. It's like the lines from the movie, whereas this is not. Like this is an original story, and I prefer that. I'm looking for where it might
I
say
would like
Legends
to
or
point out I did not
yeah.
suggest Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, is that Danny P?
No, I didn't say Rise of Skywalker, did I?
Yeah. Maybe it was Danny P. We'll assume it was Danny P.
Yeah.
Um,
God damn it, Danny.
I'll go to the text if I have to. But I mean, I like the movie, so I'm going to stick with the comic and read the
Sure.
whole thing. But I'm just
Yeah.
wondering.
Did you like Jedi Knights? Just out of curiosity, I was at the
I
store the
did.
other day. I almost picked it up, but
I did, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I asked him, just put it in the thing. I'm gonna buy that too. So just text me at the end of the month. Tell me how much money I owe you. Like this is a bad habit to get into, guys. Um,
you're telling Brian.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway,
What were you looking? I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off there. What are you looking for? What particularly are you
well,
looking for? Like
just to
if it's
see
a
if
Legends
where
or
it would say Legends or where it would
I think it would
say
just say right on the front. I think
okay.
that's probably and if it's a recent comic, it's probably canon unless it says something otherwise. And
Okay,
like if the
that's what
front
we should
page
assume.
says this is a legendary story or a legend story.
Okay, that's
But
pretty
I would
fascinating.
assume, yeah.
The book that I'm talking about is obviously still in publish. What do they call that? When it's still being, they must still be making new ones, but they've changed the cover to put that gold banner at the top. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be originally pressed in the late '80s, maybe early '90s.
Hmm.
So
You said
it
you're
would definitely,
talking about the Bounty Hunter Wars.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 98 it got published.
Oh, so
It's actually a
I thought I
trilogy.
read it in high school. Is that, yeah, yeah. And I call it one book, but so it's one story. But yes,
Yeah,
all three. I have all three.
gotcha.
Um,
It's probably sold together now anyway. They probably
right.
package them all together.
But I thought I read the first one in high school, but maybe not.
Says the series opened in June of 98 with the Mandalorian armor
Huh. All right.
and concluded
I
in
guess I would.
99.
Yeah. Maybe it was because the interest in the movies had fired back up because they were gonna, they were
Yeah.
making
I,
new ones. I don't know.
I don't have the time to do the research right this second on cast, but I'd love to see 97 to 2005, the uptick in novels, comics, games, like just what was I'd love to see that bar graph, like or
Well, in
maybe
college, Brian and I were
not a
going to
bar graph.
see
I'm
the
dumb.
re-releases of the special editions,
Mm-hmm.
in the theaters. So, yeah, that's probably when I did it. But 50 years old, my memory is not what it used to be.
Well, it's so funny. Like the three of us hung out a lot in the 90s, and we didn't have cell phones or the internet at our immediate disposal. We probably would have argued a lot less if we could have checked on things.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Where's the fun in that?
That was back when Brian was king. If you were loud, you were right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still
Well,
believe in that.
we could if you ever need to, just call Leland Chee. He probably will answer your call, I'm sure.
You're so frustrated, Aaron. It's funny.
I just love the fact that he thinks this guy doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I have no problem
He's a
that he
real boy,
exists.
Aaron. He's a real boy.
I just want to say that he is the second in that position. Is all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Whatever you. It's your universe, Aaron. We're
So
just living in
George Lucas, Leland Chee, Dave Filoni.
He's gone. He's gone. His screen is blank. Can't
We
take
lost
it
an Aaron.
anymore. Just before we go any further, just because I just saw it and it's totally off topic. April 25th. What's everybody doing on April 25th?
Watching Star Wars.
Grogu,
Is that when?
Mandalorian.
Revenge of the Sith re-release in the theater, April 25th.
Oh, nice.
Anybody's interested? I saw it in the theater, so I don't need to see it, but I might go anyway, just for fun skis. Anyway. All right. What does anybody have like a favorite? I know we kind of talked about just in general what you like. Does anybody have a favorite one thing, book, comic, toy, game?
That's tough.
That's how I know it's hard to narrow down.
So I'll just jump in with to get the ball rolling. So stormtroopers were like, there's so much that as I've gotten older, and I thought like this was my nerdy little niche, but I think I don't know if it's marketing or whatever, but like stormtroopers, what other kid likes the undescript soldier, It's not a general. It's not making any decisions. But like, I don't know. I was just drawn to stormtroopers. I thought they were awesome. And then as I get older, it's like, oh my God, there's this whole community of people who love Star Wars. It's like the majority of Star Wars fans,
Yeah.
were drawn, and it's like, oh my God, I wasn't special at all. I liked what they told me to like. So it was stormtroopers and lightsabers, for me. Everything was a lightsaber. My cousins got some of the first lightsabers. It was probably still in the 70s. They had a big black plastic handle and an affixed color tube that had a little doohickey at the top. So when you swung it, it kind of like whistled. But they each had one of those, and I was super jealous, because that was the only kind of lightsaber there was. It was after I had kids that I finally got like, an actual, and just because they didn't exist, but at the time it came about to having adult money and stuff, but a handle and a lightsaber that lit up. So for me, it was, I'm gonna try to answer your question, stormtroopers and lightsabers, which I know is super generic, and from what I've seen, it's like everybody. There's nothing special about it.
I'm going to go along with that outside of the movies. Like I think your question is outside of the movies.
Yeah, outside of movies and
And
TV, basically.
and so I got to go to childhood, and playing with the toys was
Yeah.
that took up a large percentage of my day. Now for lightsaber for me, the minute mom ran out of wrapping paper and you got that cardboard tube, that was a
Yes.
lightsaber.
Yes.
And if we got a good day where she was wrapping a lot, there were two of them, and you just go find a friend and it's lightsaber duels until one of them bent so bad that you couldn't play with it
Right.
anymore.
Yeah, I mean, toys obviously are the main go-to for, you know, Tim, Aaron, and I, our age. This was, the prime age for the toys. But I would probably go after that. I would run in the arcade to play the Star Wars video game.
Mhm.
Oh
That
yeah,
the sit down,
the original
like
one where it
Oh,
had
yeah.
in
the
the X-wing, and I don't know what the graphics are called. I mean, but they were terrible compared to today. But they were just like the squares, and
Oh, yeah.
the bullets were like smaller squares coming at you. But it was
yeah.
just so much fun to try and go down through the canyon and hit the 3 meter womp rat and
Right.
blow up the Death Star. So I think that was one of the all-time best games for me to play. And then the board games, the trivia. I mean, there's points where Aaron and I would sit there and just get the cards out and ask each other questions, and didn't bother with the pieces or anything like the Trivial Pursuit one. And it was like we you would actually have to answer the whole card. We didn't bother with just one question. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just and those weren't the crazy people that knew the name of you know
Shapeshifters.
the sand type of sand on Tatooine or whatever. I don't know, but it was. But yeah, you had to have knowledge, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah, that wasn't even color
Nice.
though.
Oh,
That
okay. So
that
this is
was
even.
it was
I
just
don't
the
remember color
green.
either.
It
It
was
was all
all
yeah.
just green. But yeah, that I could sit at that for hours.
So Brian, did you guys have an Atari? Like, is that was the all green one, the Atari version?
I had an Atari,
Yeah,
and I believe we had that game, but I thought the arcade game was all
it
green.
was still just green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember
I
the
did
green
not
too.
have that. I had an Atari. I did not have that game. I know exactly what Brian's talking about. The one in the arcade was when it
Oh
came
yeah.
out. It was you couldn't get it. Like you couldn't get to play it. There was a lineup for it. Ah, arcades. Where have
Back
they
in.
gone?
Um, is there is there something outside of TVs and movies that you think they should make? Is there something that you think they're missing out on? Is there, without being too silly, is there something they're missing the boat on that would be a cool product or would bring in a new audience or anything you can think of that, outside of TVs and movies to sort of, I would say, expand their uh, base, but it's pretty big base, I suppose.
I mean, a working lightsaber. That's, I
Yeah.
mean, you get
Well,
a working lightsaber. I
I
mean,
mean,
that's all that's left, isn't it? I mean,
probably you're probably pretty close on that. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's Disney and Star Wars doing it, but if you look online, some people are getting pretty crazy with their designs and how it's getting pretty nuts. You may not be that far off.
Hmm.
Well, they do, and it's just this year they have, and I don't know who the maker is, but they have a toy. It's plastic, um, but they've since my kids were young, they've had spring-loaded lightsabers where the entire thing was encapsulated in the handle. You'd press a button and it would pop out, even light up. But now a maker has figured out to basically do that same thing, but it uses a motor to extend it, and it will pull it back in
Uh,
all without having to push it in yourself. So that's like the latest thing in consumer world. At Disney, they do have some shows where, and it's hidden wire and stuff, but there are characters who, in real life, in front of an audience, extend a lit up lightsaber and retract a lit up lightsaber. Um, and I've seen pictures and it's pretty awesome. But there are cables like behind capes and stuff, and so it's not anything for the public. It's theatrical. Um, it's nothing like anybody would own or would be made available to the public. So
Aaron, you've
those
never
two,
been to Disney, the Star Wars world, correct?
nope.
Okay. And Matt,
It's a sad thing.
I have been to Disney many times. Star Wars has only been there once, and I'm leaving Saturday to go again. So I will be down there this coming week. I'll send you a few pics, Aaron.
Video, whatever. I've had
I've heard it's changed though. I went there 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it was, and I've heard it's actually changed a little bit. They're starting to change the theme a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how much has actually changed and how much is that just people whining on the internet.
so my wife, her cousin, who is whatever, she married a guy who's also a Star Wars fan, and made his kids Star Wars fans. And they had been there. I want to say it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't want to say it was the first year it opened, but it was, it was a while ago. And there were different rides that he took video of, and
Mhm.
we've sat around and watched it. And he's like telling me, "Oh, this was awesome," and this was, this person was here and this person was doing that, and so whatever you are allowed to tape or take pictures
I
of,
Yeah,
do
there's
it.
not
I'm
I don't think
interested.
there's a ton of other than the first order like show ride thing that they do. I think that's the only
Right.
one they don't let you film on.
Okay.
Everything else, like I did Smuggler's Run. We went to like a late night thing. We got like special tickets. We must have gone on Smuggler's Run like 8 times. It was almost like to the point where it's like, okay, are we done with this yet? I don't know how many more times I can sit in the back of the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon and watch my kids not shoot things. God love them.
Screaming at them like they're on the ice.
Yeah.
Shoot the puck.
do you like
Right.
your kids,
The
Matt?
TIE wing is right. The TIE fighter is right there. How did you miss?
Yeah.
Tim, and
um,
you've been, I believe, there, right?
No,
Oh,
no.
for some reason, when I remember you met my sister at Disney, but for some reason I thought you got into that area.
I stupidly, while in Kissimmee, I was going to meet your sister and searched for, did a Google search for, like best pubs in the area for Kissimmee. Didn't know the names of anything and just went, let's go meet here. And the place was in Disney. So I had to go through like security and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, how did I not think that this is, so I had to go into the area, but I didn't go into the actual park. It was that little
Okay.
city outside of the park.
Yeah, anyone who doesn't know, Disney has this magic area that you can go in and it's not going in the park. You're not
Right.
spending the hundred
You don't have to get the
dollars for the
ticket.
day,
Yeah.
but you just get a taste that makes you want to go into
Mhm.
Disney.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But Yeah, I enjoyed it. I went, I believe it was 2020. I was there in February before they shut everything down,
Hmm.
and I had a blast. I was drinking the blue milk with alcohol in it, and um, I did not make a lightsaber. That was the one thing I am disappointed that I did
It
not do
it was a
because
pretty
that
long
was
wait
pretty.
when we
Yeah,
went. It was a pretty big wait, so we didn't do it either. It's pretty expensive. I mean, in terms of like for my 13-year-old who kind of likes Star Wars, like probably wasn't worth it. And 40-year-old dad probably wanted to do it more, but got
I
told no.
was I was in the same boat. I was there with my daughter who has zero desire about Star Wars and was mad that we were there. It was like,
Can we go?
um,
Yeah.
and my mom, dad, stepdad, and sister, and my brother-in-law. He's a big Star Wars fan, so we enjoyed ourselves.
I
Yeah,
definitely, Aaron, should have remembered the name of that game, by the way, because I just remembered we bought a set of the game Sabak while we were in Disney World. We have it.
okay.
It's like a special little, so dumb.
Two things, Disney related. One, the 3 day hotel package that they were doing, the immersive thing.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
anybody remembers that, it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
$4,000 per person, but it was 3 days, 2 nights, and it was like all immersive. That would have been Fantasyland if I had all the money in the world. Would have loved to have done that. And I'm not sure if it's completely shut down, but they announced after I think maybe a year or two that was,
Yeah.
it's on its last leg. It's being shut down, if not down already.
I believe it's shut down.
The other thing is within the park, there is where like you're a bounty hunter, and I don't know if it's a special package or wristband or whatever, but you go to this door and they send you out on bounties. I've watched several YouTube videos, lengthy
Huh.
YouTube videos
It
of
might just
people
be,
going out.
yeah, it might just be an activity because they do that stuff in like Magic Kingdom too, where you can, they used to, I think they shut this down too. There used to be like a game, you'd go around, you try to find these certain points, and this video
Right.
would play in the window and stuff. So
Yeah.
it might just be like a game that they have the kids play.
And from what I hear just recently, I think I saw a thing this week that they're, one of the guys I follow, or I'd watched his video and like, followed him or whatever. He had made a video how disappointed he is that they're ending that. So
Hmm.
I think it used to be after you would catch the 27, like it was a huge number of bounties that you would have to collect, but then you would actually get something.
Yeah.
But they're like discontinuing that. So
It'd be
Yeah,
great if you had to actually get another guest at the park and actually, you know,
like
commandeer
Yeah,
that person and bring them back.
from what I saw, it would just, you would go to a door, go to an area and click the right button, knowing,
Yeah.
so they knew you were playing the game or whatever. And it would look like a window in the door, but it would be a video screen, but
Yeah.
like behind some bars. And it would be like, you got me, or whatever.
Can
It
you
was pretty
imagine
lame, but I still would have liked to have done it.
the fights that would break out if
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
guest first guest? And
Be
it's just
great.
like, I got you. No, you didn't. Oh
senior
man.
senior assassin all over.
I mean, you get to the point where it's like there's people visiting the park to see stuff, and then like Comic-Con type people immersing themselves in one of their favorite worlds and fantasies mixed
Dropping
together.
bags over
It's
there.
it's not the recipe for success, really.
No. It would be humorous for about 5 seconds for some
Yeah.
people, but yeah.
Yeah. Tim's there with his paper roll from the wrapping paper going and
That's right.
stabbing
Oh.
somebody.
That's right.
I got you. Oh,
Okay, this might be before Matt's time. Matt, did you ever have any roll up window shades at your house? Like you pull down and it was spring loaded and it would roll up?
I personally didn't. I think my mom and dad probably.
Okay,
had
so
that. know what
I
you're
did. I'm
talking
pretty
about.
sure both you guys did. So
I still
the
do.
the more advanced cardboard tube was all of those had a wooden stick across the bottom to keep
Right.
it nice and flat. not one shade in my house had that. Because we had pulled out all the sticks.
Yeah.
And they were all lightsabers. So
Nice.
Yeah, you break a yardstick once, and it's like I got to find something else.
Mhm.
Yeah, that little piece of wood's a nice replacement.
So Matt, I'm going to go back to a question you asked a little while ago. Like, what would you like to see?
Mhm.
I say this all the time. Uh, George Lucas kind of did it to himself by having Star Wars come out, and then when he got the go ahead to do the other ones, that's when he decided I'm going to call that one episode 4, and there's 9 of them, and I'm going to go forward, and then I'll go backward, which is cool. But then there's been so many shows that have they're at different times throughout the whole story. I could use a timeline.
Hmm.
It would be really cool if there was something. I don't care if it's a book, a comic book, or a website that's just, like a almost like a history professor of Star Wars telling the story about what went in one order. That would, for whatever reason, in my brain, I have an OCD issue with trying to figure out where some seasons or episodes land, and it always messes with me
Yeah.
when I'm watching a new series.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a little last week. In
Yeah.
the old, when you used to buy a book, at least maybe not the older books, but sort of the mid-range books, if you opened it up, that was the first page. It was, where does this book
Mm.
fit in the movie timeline? So you kind of knew, oh, this Republic Commando book I'm reading happens, after Attack of the Clones, but before Revenge of the Sith, which that one I probably could have figured out, but you
Tim,
know what
I
I mean?
think
Go ahead, sorry.
the comic book you just had,
Hmm.
the High Republic or the
Jedi
um,
Knights.
Jedi Knights, if you open that, the first page, I believe they do a little timeline thing there. I thought that was the book I saw it in. I could be wrong.
You are.
Um,
Yeah, it
but
jumps right into the action.
So
There's a
the other
thing.
okay.
There's an
option,
advertisement that
the
goes.
name is Chee, Chee.
Okay. Okay.
Just kidding.
Uh,
Sorry.
but
Sorry, Aaron.
it's
Sorry.
it's almost like it's when you were a kid, when you heard something about Star Wars, it's like, is this after Return of the Jedi or before A New Hope? Like that's
Right.
all you needed to know.
Right.
And at this point, there's so many holes in between things that it gets overwhelming but for me anyway. I'm watching Ahsoka and I'm like, okay, where is this? I know that she was in Clone Wars, and so this is after this, but it's before that. And I have to spend too much time thinking before I can enjoy the show.
I do a lot of, I don't care. I just want to
Yeah.
watch it,
Yeah.
you know?
That's fair.
And it's like when they bring somebody in or like Bo-Katan shows up and it's like, wait, I know her from Rebels. So that's when the wheels start turning, but it takes a minute or two. When I first start watching it, it's like when Mandalorian was the one that obviously got everything rolling again and
Hmm.
Hmm.
got a lot of people revved up. And it was like, yeah, I didn't care where that was in
Right.
retrospect to the movies and such. I just
Hmm.
wanted to enjoy something, and I did. And then they other stuff that started coming out, Book of Boba Fett wasn't good, and just like,
what did you just
what,
say?
Book of Boba Fett wasn't that good.
You should have
Is
been
this
here
something
last
you
time,
guys
Aaron. You
agreed
should have been here
upon?
last time.
Mandalorian season 2.5.
I mean, if you wanted to
I'm
be here
fine with
last week,
that.
you should have been here.
I don't think anybody was here last week.
Well, last
Smart.
thing.
Um, is
You
I would
there
have
invited
been
us
here
here,
last.
Matt. You asked for this. You
I
invited
did.
all three
I
of us to
did.
this
I
group.
invited. My last little bit here, is there anything that you haven't played, read, tried in the non-TV movie realm that you'd like to? Like you just obviously, Tim, you kind of talked about the comics, but is there something else?
Yeah, I'm going to jump right in here because it's hard to admit this, especially in this group. I have never played Battlefront.
Huh.
I
Not
never
1
have
minute.
either.
Oh,
I've never
okay.
played Battlefront.
Ah, look at this.
I played lots of
I
Star
played
Wars
Battlefront.
video games, but not Battlefront.
I did Force Unleashed. I played when that came out.
Yeah, that was good.
I think that's the only one though.
My
Yeah, see, I'm not
Battlefront.
into first-person shooters.
Okay.
So
Cool thing about Battlefront is you can go third person, but um, Battlefront 2 for the PlayStation 2 was kind of peak Battlefront. The new ones are fine, but I don't play anything online. I just don't. I'm too old for that now. Um, I just can't do it. But and everything costs money now. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, Battlefront. Yeah, I would suggest if you could get your hands on, or maybe through the PlayStation Store or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Force Unleashed. I really want to try that game out. I'm a big fan of Sam Witwer, who voices
Mhm.
the apprentice of Vader. And I didn't know anything about the storyline, and then saw like a YouTuber reel or whatever, and them talking to him, and just his passion of being a Star Wars nerd comes out whenever he's talking about it. He did a great job voicing Maul in the Rebels cartoon, and but the idea of like this is a apprentice of Vader that he kept secret, and the storylines, like Call of Duty. I suck at the open battlefield games and the first person shooters,
Mhm.
Right.
but I do good in the stories, the campaigns. I buy those games for campaigns. And occasionally I will go on and play in the open world stuff just to have adults scream at me and yell at me as much as they want to. And it's
I
so
bet
much
you
fun.
most of them aren't adults. They're
Those are
probably
not
like
adults. Those I
There were
guarantee you those are not adults.
true,
Gosh.
true, but there are a lot of adults too. Um,
No, I know, but like,
and it,
oh my God, kid, did you just call
yeah,
me?
but
How old are you? I'm 12.
but yeah, like the campaign that goes along with the Force Unleashed, I've heard just is
Mhm.
or the storyline is really
Yeah.
good. I tried Fallen Order or Fallen Jedi, and it was like I can't get off the train to start the game
Yeah.
because it keeps you there until you can accomplish things, and it's
Yeah.
like I'm okay. Thank God I downloaded it with Xbox Gold for free, because I would have been pissed if I paid $90 for the game and can't get out of the first level. So, um, but man, the artwork and the graphics in it is just amazing to watch and see, and they just do so much good with it. It, it, but going back to Force Unleashed would be the one that I would go with.
Yeah, I mentioned I got Knights of the Old Republic on the Switch. It was a package. It was one of those pay a full price for a game, but you get 7 Star Wars games or whatever. So Force Unleashed is on there, which I played on the Wii back when you had to actually like move your hands to do the stuff. I thought it was cool because then you could be like a lightsaber guy. You could hit people with your anyway. But that's on there, and
How old were you when you were swinging the Wii
Yeah.
controllers around?
I
The,
was
the
an
Wii motes.
Yesterday,
I might have
Yeah.
been an adult. It was
I was gonna say that's still like new technology to
yeah,
us.
post marriage, pre kids, so 20 years ago.
Oh, and no, I was thinking like maybe you were like 12, 13,
No,
like
no,
when the Wii came out, because
I'm not that young. I'm young. I'm not
14,
that young.
13. So,
But yeah, so that's on there, and Knights of the Old Republic, and there's this game, Jedi Academy, I think it's called. That was another one. I think it showed up, and then I'm pretty sure I can't guarantee this because I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure Pod Racing's on there,
yeah,
the Pod Racer
Mm.
one. So
I'm pretty sure it would be too.
what was the didn't they do like a Xbox? They did a R2D2 Xbox and C3PO controllers, and it was going to be a huge launch, and there was like a Dance Dance Revolution version of Star Wars.
I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure that existed, and I can't believe I didn't get reeled in for it. But it was a huge flop. People hated it.
Oh.
I do remember there were some the sheaths that were R2D2
Skins.
Xboxes skins. Um, and I do think like Just Dance, one of the characters was a Star Wars character. I think that's what you're kind of talking about.
Okay.
But
I'm not going to argue this one because I'm not conceding my Dave Filoni point. But like I'm furiously typing over here, and I keep like I'm muting my mic every once in a while because I'm like, you know, and what I guess he was really good at was like listening to George Lucas and giving him guidance on why certain characters would do certain things. So I don't know if he was ever the super continuity guy, but like he helped George Lucas with like Maul wouldn't do this, or these characters would act this way. I'm listening to what you're saying, George, but I really think this character would do this, which is kind of like what Lucas's ex-wife helped him with and made the movies giant successes anyway. So I guess he was more of that. I really don't want to concede that point though, but
he's considered.
So you're saying it's like it was a different job description almost.
Yep. Yes.
He's considered the chief creative officer.
Well, no, that's the title he just got, and that's why I was thinking maybe Jonathan Chow got his job after. What was his name?
Jonathan
Leland Chee.
That was close.
I'm pretty close.
Yeah, well, I may edit that out for you, Aaron.
Syllable wise is
whatever. I thought because he got that promotion, the other guy got the job. That he used to be like keeper of the timeline, but I guess he was more the feelings guy. Like,
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. The creative part, right? Like,
motivation.
Yeah, the Jedi. This Jedi wouldn't do that. Like this character, more of like character development, and it's not the canon; it's the reality of the universe.
To be able to tell, like sit with George Lucas and he's not pitching you ideas, but like talking through what he's thinking, and you're like, no, I don't think so, George. I think
that would
to
be
me.
something.
It seems much more rational that like if you could say, well, no, we did this here and this here, so that can't happen.
Right.
I can see somebody more data driven being able to correct him rather than, I don't really think Obi-Wan would feel that way at this time because he just lost Say-Say-Tin, or, not Say-Say-Tin, but Shakti or, whatever her name was. But did you guys see my post? In
the timeline that
it's a little outdated though because it has stuff that says it's not released yet. It says episode 9 hasn't released, so it just needs to be updated. That's all.
Oh, but that's cool though.
Yeah,
I
it's good for the stuff that's on there because they got
and
in there. And
we had this conversation a little bit with the TV shows and the series and stuff. Is that the Acolyte is a really cool idea that. As far as people giving their opinions didn't work all that well. I liked it, and I think it's a really important thing to do to get that part of that timeline in and follow that story about how the Siths, lost power, came to power, decided to just have two. That's a really important part of the story, and I would like to see that make it.
Well, it's definitely a canon part of the story now because it was produced by Disney. And, I mean, it shows Darth Plagueis. There's no way that's not Darth Plagueis. And I'm sure you guys covered that.
Yeah.
Right.
Brad was essential in helping us with that.
Yeah.
Jeez. Made him go dark again.
When he comes back, it might be Brad, though. We don't know.
It might be
Maybe they'll
Brad
both be there.
anyway.
Who knows?
It's Brad with an
college
Aaron
visit.
face
It's just
on.
Brad shows up in the picture with him. But yeah, I would like to get even before that part of the story where the Jedi come to into the picture, and then the Sith before that. I'm reading a story in Darth Vader where he says that there were so many Sith and we were so competitive that we took each other out. So there can only be two, because with the dark side of the Force comes a lot of, the negative things go with it, greed and, wanting to get ahead and, that kind of thing. So they would backstab each other and blah, blah, blah. And so they had to limit each other to two. That's just from reading a couple of pages in a comic. I would really like to hear that story played out the way that the Star Wars universe would like it to be played out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the Darth Vader comic. Chris Soule, I believe, is the writer of it, and he's a fantastic writer. Has done a lot of stuff. Um, the when Marvel took back Star Wars, they gave
Sorry. Can you see everybody's screen?
You're not looking at everybody, are you?
yeah,
There it is.
um, when Marvel bought the rights and started producing the comic book again,
Yeah.
they gave a writer like, here, you write this. Jason Aaron was his name, great writer, and a lot of people like the stuff that he originally did. That was one of the things I suggested to you, Tim, through Amazon. You could have read it,
Yeah.
but the stuff that they're doing and putting out, there's some really good stuff, and then there's stuff that a lot of people aren't really that, you know, jumped on and liked. The Legacy of Vader comic that's coming out. It's a
Yeah.
Kylo Ren story, and that one's been pretty good. 2 issues of that's been out. They did a one shot with the I want to say Kalanaka, the Jedi, the Wookiee Jedi from Acolyte,
Mm.
and it's a great story. It's really well done. I would highly recommend reading the book. I mean, I just snagged it because I was trying to grab some more things just for this podcast, and it was one of the best things I've read
Hmm.
in Star Wars from the books that we've gotten, and one of the better comic books I read lately. So really enjoyed that one.
Do you know the writer off the top of your head?
I do not.
I'll look it up.
It was like I said, it was just a one shot that they put out, and it had to do with him taking an apprentice and kind of thing. It's like, but it's really well done. And yeah, I believe it was in the Marvel world, because that's the other thing. Um, Star Wars still has different publishing companies that own the rights to publishing. Dark Horse Comics still has the rights. There's a company, I think IDW still can print some stuff, and then Marvel. And I think what they basically have said is anything Dark Horse does doesn't fall under canon. That's your Legends and high, Knights and Old Republic stuff. And then anything Marvel does is law.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. That's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing with. Okay. I did want to
Because
point
now
this out.
they own Marvel too, right? Marvel's under the Disney
Mhm.
umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah. Reading the comics, and this is maybe just a general statement about comics as opposed to Star Wars, but while reading the Darth Vader series, what I really like is when you get into another issue, they all open with this feel like the first um, episode of a series on TV. You know how the first episode of a series just kind of starts to lay the groundwork and whatever, but the rest of that season generally just kind of picks up from where it was left off. Sometimes they'll introduce a new character that'll seem kind of new, but there's some continuity between episode after episode in a series where when you get to a new issue in a comic, it can feel like the beginning of a new series every time you switch the page. As I'm reading a trade paperback, right? So, I'm getting from issue 4 to issue 5, and it always seems like you're starting a new story for the next 5 pages, and then you get to something that's kind of a climax, and then you're starting a new story again, and I kind of enjoy that. The pacing of that is different from a lot of other mediums.
Yeah, I would
For what
agree.
it's worth.
Kevin Scott was the writer. I just looked it up. I don't know who that is, but all right. Well, I think we can put a bow on it if everybody wants to, unless anybody has anything to
Great.
parting words for anything. Thanks for playing along. All right. Well, this has been the State of Star Wars, a BTB short. We are part of the SBDM Podcast Network, and you can check out our main cast, the BTB Movie Club, and a bunch of other great podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. I got to get out of here. Thanks for playing along, everybody. See you later.
I'm looking forward to not editing this.